Chumash and Rashi. And today it's Chumash without Rashi, as there is.
There's no, it's incredibly short.
Incredible.
So you don't have to do a lot of the Chassidus.
Yeah.
So,
We are Torah portion Vayakhel. Fourth reading. Continuing with the building of the Mishkan, a home for God. Okay. And in these verses, it's Torah verses without Rashi's explanation, because Rashi gave the explanation on how this is to be done in Parshas Truma. And he said earlier that he's done that already. He's not going to repeat it here. Before it was given the command in Parshas Truma, now it's the fulfillment of the command. All right, verse number 8 in chapter 36. Vayasu, when they did, Kol Chacham Lev, all the wise of heart, meaning the wise-hearted craftsmen, in the doing of the craft, of the work, is Mishkan of the sanctuary, the tabernacle. Eser Yiriyos. They did 10 tapestries. Sheish Mashazar, that they were, these tapestries are woven by, Sheish Mashazar is twisted linen. Sheish is linen, Mashazar is twisted, Scheles, turquoise wool, argamon and purple wool, shani and scarlet wool, kruvim.
I never knew about the cherubim.
Huh?
I never knew the design of the cherubim.
Yeah. So the kruvim, the cherubs, right? They made them a woven design. Okay. So what do we say? There were 10 tapestries, right? Now each tapestry, its length, Shmeina ve'esrim amma, was 28 amma. Remember, this is an amma, a hand's breadth, length, or rather. 28 amma, v'reichav arba, and 4. So, here, let's just,
They're all connected.
yeah, we didn't get there yet. That's, each one was, here you can see over here, like it's showing on top the tapestries on top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's 28 this way, and 4 this way, right? 10 of them, that's 40, right? So you got 28 this way, so it's overhanging because this is 20 across. So it's overhanging as a result of it. Got it?
Yeah, they're connected by the beams.
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
They're not connected by the beams.
Okay.
So you have, each one is going 4 this way. Look,
Mhm.
see 4 this way?
Mm-hmm.
4, 4, 4. So if you got it, and that way it adds up. And it's 20 across, and then coming down on each side. Okay?
Yeah. They're looking for one. Well,
So they made, yeah, each one made as such. And so again, each tapestry was 28 cubits, amma, berechav arba amma, and its width was 4 ammas, each one. Mida achas achol yiris, the same size for each tapestry. So they attached the first 5 tapestries together, right? Achas el achas, 1 to 1. And then likewise, the second set of 5, they also sewed together.
Okay.
Right? Right? So each one was 11. V'yas lulais tchelis, and they made loops. Lulais are loops, tchelis, made out of turquoise wool. Al sfasa yira ha'achas, at the edge of the tapestry. From the end of where it would be connected. And so they did to the along the edge of the endmost tapestry of the second one, right? And therefore, with those loops, that's how they bound them together, right? Chamishim lulois, and there were 50 loops. Right? Lulois also b'yirah that was made in each tapestry, achas of one. Chamishim lulos also because yiris asher be'achaberes hashenis, and likewise 50 the lulos, again lulos is the loops, was made in the end of the second adjoining tapestry. Magbilos lalulos achas elachas. So each set of loops were opposite the other one, the counterpart one. But yes,
Can you see a picture? Please.
I don't know if it doesn't show here
I just want to look at it.
doesn't show the tapestry. I don't think no.
I'd still like to look at that one, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have the loops, then verse 13, V'yas chamishim karsei zohav. So now he made chamishim is 50, karsei clasps, zohav made out of gold, and with these two tapestries, they were able to clasp them together, right? Through the loops, this is what clasped them together, right? And made it a cover that was over the Mishkan as one, right? That way it became one covering. V'yas yiras izim. Now, this is the undercover, right?
Mm-hmm. The one you can see from inside.
From the inside, exactly. Now there's one on top of it, right? V'yas yiras izim. Now they made one from goat's hair. Izim is goats. Right? V'oyel al mishkan, ashtei asrei yiros also isam. So this one, because now it's on top of the bottom one, so it needs to be a bit bigger, right? So it was made from 11 sheets, tapestries. The other one was 28. This one's 30 cubits. But the width of it was the same, 4. Because now you had 4 times 11 rather than 4 times 10. It was the same size for all 11 tapestries. And here, 5 were joined together and 6 were joined together. Right?
13, 14.
And made lulois again are the loops. Chamishim, 50 of them, on the edge of the tapestry. Right, Hakitzaina, the outer one, a machberes that is connected. Chamishim lulois and 50 loops, also al also done at the edge of the tapestry. A chayveres that is connected. Asheni is the second one. And now, interesting, these are 50, but the copper clasps. The other clasps were gold. These are copper. In order to join this goat hair covering, that it should be as one covering the entire Mishkan. Actually, it's interesting. Over here it says Oihel. Before it said Mishkan. Rashi doesn't pick up on it. Did you see what I just picked up on? before we said it was a covering for the Mishkan. Look, go to verse 13, right? The 50 clasps, gold clasp, they made it a covering for the Mishkan, right? It became one. And here, right here in 18, it says it made them, join them together for the oihel, for the tent. It doesn't even say oil mayed, just calls it a tent. To make it one. Yas michse oihel, and this made a michse, a cover, a roof, in other words, for the oihel. Iris elim, the skins of rams, ma'adonim, that are red skins. Oh, look at that. Now we know. This is Washington's okay. Huh?
Never mind.
I did. And then there was another one of a tachash skin above it. So there were three. Right? There was the inside one that was made. The inside one was woven from, if you recall, from wool, right? From three different types of wool and linen. They were twisted together. The one on top of it was made from the goat skin, goat hair skin, right? And now on top of that is techoshim.
Get an idea of it. There were tapestries.
Interesting. The techoshim, it doesn't give details. That's a third one on top. The tachash was the outermost layer, exactly. But it doesn't give the size here.
It seems to be folded over in the picture. Meetings.
Hmm?
It seems to be folded and then meeting on the top.
Oh, it's just showing you layer, like it's
I
layered.
know, but here. Okay. It shows it's layered, but on the smaller picture. It looks like it's, in this picture, it looks like it's folded. And then one underneath that is the, and then there's a third one underneath that.
From there you can, I don't see anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to be
Yeah,
honest.
let's see if the Rebbe. So you see the difference there. First one's Mishkan, second one's Oyel, and the third one doesn't even give us the size. But I wonder if we had that before already. I don't recall now.
Oil means tent. No.
Yeah, well, we've had it many times before.
If I learned it.
Hmm.
Just learned that now.
Why is the Rebbe's bigger than all if it's not a tent?
You mean if it's not because it doesn't have a covering?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's called an Oyel, because an Oyel. The point of the oil means it's covered, right? And here it's not covered. Yeah, specifically because of tuma. Otherwise you become impure if it's covered. So specifically. So why would it be called?
I have another question. At the touch Rebbe's timber, it is covered. So, you know what I'm talking about?
No, never been there.
It's covered roof. Versus the Rebbe's, it's open roof.
I don't know.
But it doesn't have to be either or.
I don't know. That's a good question. Can't answer that.
And they took the 10 tapestries, right?
Yeah.
Which were 28 by 4. Divided them in half. And they put five of them together. And they sewed them, I guess, along the 28, right?
Right.
And so they ended up with a sheet that was 28 by 40,
Right.
right? And then they connected they connected the two tapestry 5 parts together. Which edge did they connect it on? Because the edge, so which? But on the 28 or the 40?
It's always on the length of it,
So they have 28 by 80.
by 40. Where'd you get
No,
80?
28 by 40 is each one. Now
No,
they're
it's
putting
4
28
by 4.
by 20, 28 by 40, 28, right? Yeah, because it's 28 by 20.
No, it's each
Each one
one.
is 28 by
by
20, the 5
no.
pieces together.
No. Yeah, the 5 feet. Yeah, but each one, but follow what it said. It made each one 28 by 40. The under one, right? The wool one was 28 by 4
No,
times 5 times 2.
You're going to the goat's hair now? No, first the tapestry, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
There were
yeah,
some-
so 28
by 4.
by 20.
No, go back. You're reading wrong. You're not.
There's 10 tapestries.
Each one was 28 by 4. Each one was
Five are
20.
sewn together, each tapestry is 28 by 4. They're sewn together, so now the piece that's sewn together is 28 by 20.
Well, 5 were sewn together and another 5 were sewn
5 times
together.
4 is 20.
Right,
What
yeah.
am I saying wrong?
Yeah, and then, but there's a second
Now
5.
you connect them which side, on the 40 or the 28? On the 20 or the 20? You connect them
28,
on the
still on the 28, still on
the
28.
So you have now 28 by 40.
Exactly.
I see. No, 28 by 40 is a finished thing after.
Right.
After it's connected to two tapestry that were sewn together.
The inside of the inside of the Mishkan, the inside of the Mishkan was 20 by 30, sorry, 10 was 20 by 30. So on the two sides was 4 on each side. On the north and south side, it overlaid 4 amas, right? 4 out of the 10 amas high that the planks were, right? So it went down 40% on the side, probably less than 40% because it was also the thickness of the planks that were 1.5. So yeah, it's less than that, more like 2.5 on each side. And then on the back side, on the west, I don't know how it went on the east. I think it was mostly on the back.
There's a curtain on the east.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. I'm not certain how that.
The opening, right?
Yeah.
East is the opening, yeah.
Same thing with the other. Courtyard. East coast.
So now how did this go? So the other one, so when it came to the goat's hair, that was larger when they finished, right?
Right, that
So they
was,
connected 6 plus 5.
so that was 40, yeah, that was 44.
One was 20, and the other one was
24,
24. So they had 44 by 28.
right.
I'm wondering, how did they stretch it over the planks or they attached it to the planks somehow?
No,
They stretched it.
doesn't say anywhere that they attached it.
So it must have been stretched.
Okay, there's no sichas on this. But there is. Okay, remember, remember that when it says that it says that the Nisiim the princes, the leaders of the tribes, they brought the stones. Did we do this one? Maybe we did this. I think we did this. Or maybe it was a different one. Yeah. So if you recall, so the leaders, they brought the gems for the ephod, for the breastplate.
After everything else was given.
Right. So, and Rashi says, what did the Nisim do by the inauguration of the altar, which was later, and they brought first. But when it came to making the Mishkan, they didn't give first. So the Nisim said, let the congregation give what they'll give, and whatever will be lacking, they will complete it. Since the congregation gave everything, as it says, Malach Isadayam, that the work was sufficient. So they said, what are we going to give? So they brought the gems. That's why when it came to the inauguration of the altar, they gave first, because they were a bit lazy right? And that's why in the name of the Nisim over here, it's missing a Yud to emphasize that. So it seems from Rashi that it seems from Rashi that there's something negative here about the leaders, that it would have been proper that they should have given first when it came to the gifts of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary. But they were lazy, they waited until the congregation gave, and that there was sufficient. So there wasn't really anything left for them to give because of the laziness. So Nisim, there's missing a letter in their name to emphasize that. But according to this, then we need to ask. Yeah, you follow?
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
that on Tuesday.
Huh?
We did that on
Yeah.
Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no sikha on, because there's no Rashi's here, so there's no sikha here, right?
Mhm.
So why would Rashi begin his comment? Why did the Nisim give by the inauguration of the Mizbeach first? That's kind of wondrous. Because they were late in giving now, not be. What should be Rashi's question? That they be, why did they see to give first then, or why were they lazy here? If we're speaking here, it should be about why were they late and gave. That's the question. The fact that they gave first over there, that's not a question over here. That would be the question over there, why they give first, right? But over here, the question should be, why were they the last ones to give? But he doesn't ask it that way. That's a little funny. He begins his whole statement, why did they see it fit to give first later on? We're not later on, we're here. Right?
Is that the question?
This is a question on Rashi. Redev is asking a question on Rashi. Did you understand the question?
I understood the question.
Got it? Okay. That's all. Don't try to figure it
No, I
out.
just asked, I was specifically asking, is that specifically the question?
That's a question. That's the first question. Okay?
Yeah.
Second question. So the Rebbe is very disturbed because the Rebbe is, the Rebbe is Mr. Positive, right? He's the ultimate, and he says it's not possible that Rashi wants to say something negative about them. The Torah doesn't even speak about an animal in negativity when, unless it needs, it has to, and others, it doesn't speak about by Noach when he brought the animals, he brings the ones that were pure and the ones that were not pure, not that they were impure, right? To teach us that we shouldn't speak even negative, right? So the Torah won't speak negative even about an animal. Why would Rashi speak negative about the Nisim over here? So based on this, right? It wasn't just a laziness here from the Nisim. On the contrary, they did this because they felt that this was their responsibility and their position. What was that? What's the main thing of a Nasi, of a leader? Yeah, I'm asking you.
It completes the whole group.
They are there to take care of the needs, the spiritual needs of their followers, right? That's their main purpose, right? To make certain that there should be good for the congregation, that is their responsibility. They have to worry about that. That whoever they are responsible for, that they are doing what they need to do, right? So in our case over here, what is that? How does that translate over here? Remember, we're calling them Nisim. They're the princes. They're the leaders of the tribes. So the Nisim over here, they had to inspire, to awaken within the people that they should give. That's why they thought initially, in order to guarantee that the congregation will be properly giving the gifts for the Mishkan, that it's upon them. Only after that they will do everything that they're capable of, then the Nisim will complete anything that is lacking from the giving of the congregation. That's what, right? Well, because the words were used. Rashi uses the words, right? He does say that, right? But the Rebbe's, you have to follow. It's very nuanced over here. You need a cup for this, right? And leave everything else aside, because otherwise you're going to confuse things. To follow the nuance over here, because it's the way the Rebbe, the way Rashi is saying it, right? That's and therefore what's inferred from it, what the Rebbe is inferring, or it's implied from it, that they were doing their job, right? They were doing their job. And this is implied from, as Rashi explains, what the Nisim actually said. Yisnabu tzibor mashi yisnabu. The congregation should give that which they will give, right? Meaning their first responsibility is to make sure that there is a engagement and involvement of the Yidden in giving. Only afterwards, what's missing, they will fill. Right. And this is the shaila of Rashi, the question of Rashi. Mara, what did they see to give by Chanukah's Mizbeach first? In other words, follow the nuance over here. This is amazing what the Rebbe does. That since the service of the Nesiim is to delay their giving because of the responsibility that they have, right? That's how their shikaladas, that's how they understood. So then why would it be that when it came to Chanukah's Mizbeach, they did the opposite? That's why he asked that first. right? Like, in other words, Rashi, the implication of Rashi in asking this question first, it says, your job is to take care of the Jews, which you did over here. Why is it there that over there? But that's why he's asking the question first over there. What's over there got to do with over here? We're not there. This is happening, in Tishrei Cheshvan, right? And that's happening Nisan, the following Nisan. That's like 6 months away, right?
Mhm.
But what's bothering Rashi is that their responsibility is to the people. So what happened? So his first question is, what happened over there that they didn't feel the same responsibility for the people that they gave first? That's his question, right? A whole different way to look at it. Therefore, Rashi explains, right? What he responds to that, right? That since they complete the congregation had done everything, right? Which they didn't expect that, right? They said they're going to complete whatever's lacking. Others, if half of it was lacking, they're going to take upon themselves, right? If a quarter is whatever it was, right? In other words, they were taking full responsibility. But as leaders, they have to make certain that the people are fulfilling their mandate. That's what it means a leader. So that's their first priority, right? So now they saw everything was done. So what do we got to do? In other words, where do we have any part in this? That's why they gave by the Chanukiah Mizbeach later on in Nisan, they gave for the inauguration of the altar first. No, that was not the stones. That was the offerings on the altar. No. Stones is now. That's stones is now, right? So, now that the fact that what they gave was sufficient for all the needs of the Mishkan, and there was nothing left for them to participate in, so they came to the conclusion. So follow the rationale over here. They came to the conclusion that their behavior now of making certain that everybody gives and they will give only afterwards might not have been 100% correct. But that's only after the fact they came to that, right? That's why they gave later first, because maybe it wasn't correct. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe we have to show. The Rebbe doesn't. Maybe he's going to say this. Let's see what he says. My thought is because maybe you have to show the example, right? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have to show the example. So there they show the example. Here they just inspired and didn't show by example. So that's why. That's my. Let's see what the Rebbe says. But that was my thought that falls in. That's why they thought maybe it wasn't correct this time, right? Even though they didn't need really to show the example because the Jews did it anyways, right? So there, it was sufficient. But so maybe that's not a good. That's it. So the Rebbe now explains more. Wow, this is fascinating. What was the shikol hadas? Shikol hadas means the thought process. Like, what was their rationale in thought process, right? Of the Nisim, right? That the priority of their position is to make certain that the congregation fulfills their task, their purpose, and only afterwards they will add and any gaping holes, and which is generally a proper way to be a leader. However, when it comes to the work of the Mishkan, which is a very important task, the completion of giving up to the Mishkan needs to be done b'zrizus, swiftly, quickly, right?
Mhm.
In other words, as fast as possible with no delay at all. Therefore, the fact that they waited for the congregation to complete their giving, this waiting caused a certain delay in the completion of the giving. That wasn't proper. Very subtle idea here. It's very subtle, right? Very subtle. Therefore, Rashi says that's why they were lazy, right?
Mm.
And that's why a letter is missing from their name to indicate, to emphasize that the laziness, right? However, the fact that they delayed in the giving was because they felt the responsibility of their position, right? However, that kind of behavior also came a little bit because of the laziness. In other words, it's a mixture. It wasn't, yes, at that position, it wasn't entirely. Because in other words, because there's two competing ideas here. One is you're a leader, your responsibility is the people that they fulfill their mandate, right? But there's another competing idea over here. It's the Mishkan, it's the home of God, right? It's the home of God. The God is, hey, from Parshas Truma to the end of Pekudei, 5 Torah portions, right? There's nothing else in Torah that competes to it at all in the length of the narrative, right? Nothing. That shows how important this is, right? So there's another element here. Jesus, swiftness. That was a competing value that was lacking a bit because they were a bit lazy. What that means, a bit lazy? Well, I don't know what that means exactly, but a little bit, right? In the necessity of finishing the project swiftly, promptly, and not waiting at all that there should be any kind of delay. Wow. Only the Rebbe could do this. And when you look at the Rashi now, it makes perfect sense. Right? Remember, let's go back for a second. Let's go back for a second, make sure we got this, because this is phenomenal. The Rebbe asks, what was the problem over here? They didn't give first here, right? They gave at the end. So the whole issue is here. What happens later on is not the issue. So why does Rashi begin? Why did they see to give first over there? Like, huh? We're not there. Why are you asking that? Why? If you bring that into conversation, it's one thing, but don't bring it as the first point. What was the answer to that? No, what was there? Because what's the main purpose of a leader? It's to make sure the people do what they need to do, right? So that's what's bothering. That's the main thing, right? And that's why he's asking why didn't they do that over there? Why they give first over there? That's the question that's a question here. Why is it a question here? Why would that be a question here? Because there's a yud missing in their name. Here is missing something in them. But we don't know. How do we know what's missing in them? How do we understand what's missing in them? Because there's two competing ideas over here, right? One is their leadership, that they have to take care of the people, and the people come first, right? And so that we see they did that here. So then what's missing in them? Oh, 1 second. They did that here, but later on, they gave first. Well, so what did they see to do that? Oh, it was because they saw. What did they see? Right? Follow. There's a whole order over here. What did they see? That the people did it all on their own. And there was nothing left for them. So then they realized, you know what, maybe we didn't act properly. Like, maybe we didn't act properly. In other words, we should have done it, we should have done it first in order that it would be more swiftly done instead of waiting to the end. And they realized that, there's another idea here, and they realized that. And Rashi adds that they were a little lazy as a result because of that. Wow. So what it shows you over here in leadership, the fine line of what it means to take care of the people, be there for the people, and at the same time, that the avoida is, what the engagement or what the issue at hand is, you can't lose sight of that, the value and the importance of it, that it needs to be done, in a prompt manner, as in this case over here with the Mishkan. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, tomorrow we continue. We'll see you by, ladies, you got that? Everybody got that? Understood? Yeah? Everybody online got it? Understood? Darren, Tim, Joe, Jolie,
Mhm.
Trisha. Don't thank me. I want to know if you got it. I want to know that yeah, Liba, Diane, followed?